Words collide, truth unfolds, different voices, stories told, no disguise, we speak it raw.
So what makes a story powerful and why do most people miss it? Today I want to unpack this not as a theory, but from my own years of experience sitting behind cameras, telling stories, listening to people in some of the most marginalized corners of the world. You see, most people think a story is powerful because of how polished it looks, or how perfect the production is, or how big the audience is. But that's not true. I've seen simple, raw stories told with no budget, yet move people to tears. And yet I've seen expensive, flashy content feel so empty. From my journey, I've come to realize that there are 5 things that make a story powerful. Number 1, character. When we talk about powerful storytelling, it always begins here. It always begins with a character. Not statistics, not data, not concepts, just a person. A real person with a voice, with a face, with a struggle, with a name. You see, we don't connect to ideas, we connect to people. We connect to people who embody those ideas. Let's say I want to tell a story, say the unemployment rate in Africa. And all I could tell you are the statistics. Have I really told a story? Now, let's say I decide to introduce it to Amina, a real person, a 17-year-old girl in northern Nigeria who learned to repair solar lamps, for instance, to keep her siblings in school. That is a story. That's when you're learning. That's when the numbers begin to make sense. And that's when the numbers turn into names. That's the power of character. The character is not just the subject of your story. The character is the soul of your story. We don't connect to ideas, we connect to people. And if your audience can see themselves or someone they love in that person, in that character, then you've already won half the battle. Then you've already told the story. Because really, storytelling is empathy delivery. Storytelling starts with empathy, and empathy starts with a single person we are willing to care about. The second one is conflict. I call conflict the soul of storytelling. Every great story involves a tension. Every great story involves a struggle, a question, and a journey. If there's no conflict in a story, then there's no engagement. Conflict to me is what gives a story its pulse. It's the problem that needs solving, the question that needs an answer. Think about it. Will you sit through a movie where everything just seems perfect, where everything just works out, where nothing challenges the character, no resistance, no tension, no stakes, no problem to be solved? Probably not. It's the conflict that we see ourselves. It's the moment the character is either lost, rejected, stuck, or afraid. That's where we relate. So let's take, for example, my favorite TV show of all time, Game of Thrones. Yes, Game of Thrones is a TV show about dragons, thrones, and betrayals. But the real reason why Game of Thrones worked out, especially the early seasons, was because of conflict. And I'm not just talking about swords and bloodshed. I'm talking about the human kind of conflict. Right from the first episode, every major house is at war. Not just for land, but for control, for legacy, for survival. The Starks fighting the Lannisters, the Targaryens trying to reclaim the throne. Jon Snow versus the White Walkers. These are surface conflicts, and yes, they drive the act. But they are not really why we care. The most powerful moment in Game of Thrones, as far as I'm concerned, came from internal conflicts. For instance, Jon Snow constantly wrestling with identity. Am I a Stark? Am I a Targaryen? Am I a bastard? Am I a leader? That's an internal conflict. Tyrion Lannister battling shame, brilliance, and belonging. Daenerys torn between liberator and tyrant, or being a savior or a destroyer. These characters are not just fighting enemies, they are fighting who they are becoming. And that's what real conflict looks like in storytelling. It's not just about what happens on the outside, it is about what's breaking or rebuilding on the inside. The internal war makes us care. That's the essence of real, honest conflict. And no matter what kind of story you're telling, whether it's a brand film or a documentary or your own personal journey or just an interview, if there's no conflict, there's no connection. Conflict doesn't weaken your story. Conflict anchors your story. It's the moments we all remember. So let's talk about the third point, vulnerability. You know the moment in a story when someone stops trying to impress you and just tells you the truth. That's when the magic happens. That shaky voice, that paused sentence, the confession of "I almost gave up." Vulnerability is the doorway to trust, and trust is what makes people stay with your story. In my own journey as a storyteller, I've learned that the most powerful moments I've captured were not the most rehearsed moments. They were the moments where someone cried mid-sentence, or the moments where someone whispered something they had not told anyone before. I remember one woman once told me, "I didn't want to be filmed, but something about being seen made me feel whole again." That's the gift of vulnerability. Vulnerability in storytelling doesn't just reveal weakness, it reveals strength through honesty. And for us as storytellers, the lesson is clear. If you want people to care, don't just tell them what happened, tell them what it cost. Now, let's talk about context. Every powerful story lives inside a world, and as a storyteller, your job is not just to show us the character. Your job is to help us understand the world the character lives in. That's what context is about. Without context, people don't understand why your story matters. So when you're telling a story, give just enough to let them see the world your character lives in. Context gives your story meaning. Context helps the audience see the weight of your character in your story. So let's say, for instance, if you say a woman started a small business with $50, that sounds nice, right? But when you tell me she's from a rural community where women are not allowed to own land, where her husband left, and where she's raising 4 children alone, now I care. That's context. And that's what makes a simple act feel like a revolution. That's what makes a simple story powerful. The fifth and last point is purpose. A story must mean something beyond entertainment. For me, I love social impact storytelling. So I always like to answer the question, why should people care? Every story has a point, or at least it should, because a story without purpose is just noise. A powerful story doesn't just entertain or inform, it leaves something behind. It sparks a thought, a question, a shift. Purpose answers the question, why does this story need to be told? Don't just say we drilled a ball. Show that the real purpose is dignity, access, freedom. That a child can go to school because she's not spending hours fetching water. That is dignity. That's not a project. That's a story with purpose. Storytelling isn't just about being impressive. Storytelling is about being present. Whether you are telling your story, your brand story, or someone else's story, go deeper, listen, find the tension, honor the vulnerability, share it with purpose. That's how stories move people, and that's how stories can shape the world. Thank you for joining me today, and if this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs it. And tell me in the comment section, what's one story that changed how you see the world? This is the dialogue with Temidayo. See you on the next episode.
This is the dialogue, no holding back. We talk.